The art of putting yourself first. This is Amy Colombo, confidence life coach, registered nurse, single mother to 3 boys. I want you to know that you're not alone. And my intention is for you to walk away with a little less shame and a lot more love for that pleaser part of you, because it is through her that your self-empowerment lives. That is your doorway directly through this part of you, the pleaser, where your self-empowerment and your self-growth and your personal development lies. This does not discriminate. Men, women, but especially women, nurses, nurse coaches have this part of us. And I'm going to get into where it stems from. This topic is really front and center in my life personally right now. For you that's doing this work, there's always deeper layers. So you may have done a lot of work on this part like I have, and it may be coming up all of a sudden. And it just means that there's deeper layers. There's more growth to be had in this arena. So I want to start off with a powerful quote that perfectly captures what so many of us are facing daily. When you avoid conflict to keep the peace with others, you start a war inside yourself. Cheryl Richardson. I love this quote by Cheryl Richardson because what we're doing when we're pleasing is we are avoiding uncomfortable emotions with others. Those uncomfortable emotions of them being angry, them being disappointed with us, them believing that we're not nice or that we're selfish. We actually are in our mind waging the consequences emotionally of disagreeing with someone, of prioritizing ourselves. And when we're pleasing, we're deciding that their needs, their emotional needs, what we perceive their emotional needs to be, are more important than ours. But that uncomfortableness, that discomfort in your body doesn't just go away. You might have avoided it with them, but now it's internal. It's a struggle inside yourself. And what we're doing is we're self-abandoning and we're self-sacrificing. And that takes a toll after a while and causes resentment. I'm going to go through the 5 steps. And the first step to change, to any kind of change in your life, is awareness. I want to talk about the costs and the sneaky benefits of people pleasing. The first step in putting yourself first is becoming aware of the behavior. Often unconsciously, we are behaving in this pattern of pleasing. Awareness is the first step and the key to change. People pleasing may seem harmless, but it's exhausting. And it erodes your sense of self. For nurses, I know there's a lot of nurses on here. It might mean taking extra shifts when you don't want to, saying yes when you're feeling depleted. For nurse coaches, it might show up in undercharging or overcommitting to clients. The cost is burnout, frustration, and eventually resentment. And that's the war that you're waging inside yourself when you're feeling resentment. But what about the sneaky benefits? People pleasing often brings temporary validation and praise. It feels good to be needed, to avoid conflict, and to be perceived as nice. Recognizing these benefits helps us to understand why we've kept these behaviors and why we're stuck in this pattern. It's not because we're flawed or there's something wrong with you. It's because we've been using them to survive. But now, you can choose to change. Evolution has wired us to please. And why? Because this is tribal. This is primal. As humans, we are social animals. We require other humans and connection to survive. And no matter how independent you are or hyper independent you are, you still need social connection to others. So just know that pleasing is a survival pattern. The other reason why this is in existence is because parent pleasers, which, let's be honest, most of us were raised to please those big people in our lives, become people pleasers. And this served us as children because we needed to please those big people. It was perceived as almost death if we didn't. Remember what happened to you when you didn't please them. Maybe you were told, go to your room. Maybe you were bullied. Love was taken away. Maybe you were punished. All of those things had you as a child take ownership for pleasing those parents, because when you pleased your parents, you got your needs met. and you're still carrying this pattern on in adulthood. But awareness is the first step. So, really recognizing it for what it's doing, it's keeping you safe, it's keeping you alive, it's keeping you in good graces with other people, it's keeping you from having to have conflict with others. But at what cost? And the cost is you're waging that war inside yourself, and it doesn't feel good. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. Step number 2 in loving the people pleaser and shedding the shame and transforming this pattern is emotional mastery, being able to hold space for yourself and others. The second step is emotional mastery. Understanding our triggers and our emotions is vital to calming this pleaser part down. Emotional mastery means being honest with yourself about what you're feeling, especially in those moments when you want to please others at your own expense. This is particularly important in both personal and professional contexts. As nurses, it's easy to put everyone ahead of you all the time. And as nurse coaches, you're often holding space and supporting others in their emotions, but you're not doing that for yourself. Emotional mastery means taking time each day to check in with yourself. This looks like, how are we doing? Looking at yourself in the mirror, putting your hand on your heart and your belly, asking yourself, like you would ask a friend, hey, how's it going? How are you really doing? What do I need right now? And recognizing that holding space for yourself is just as important as doing so for others. It's also about allowing yourself to feel discomfort when you set boundaries and say no. This discomfort is actually a sign that you're growing. So many women that are pleasers will talk about the guilt that comes when you start self-prioritizing. And that is normal and nothing's gone wrong. And to be fair, again, the reason why you're pleasing is because you're perceiving the emotions from them to cause such discomfort in you that you're avoiding it altogether and you're pleasing because of it. When you stop pleasing, when you start tuning into your own needs and choosing yourself first, a couple of things are going to happen. You're going to feel uncomfortable emotions yet again. It isn't just like, yeah, this feels great, everything's good. Just know you're changing a long-term pattern that's been in existence for decades. And there's going to be some grief. There's going to be some shame. You're going to have that, oh my God, did I just do something wrong? This doesn't feel good. I feel guilty. No, none of that means anything's gone wrong. Those are uncomfortable emotions that you are just not used to feeling. And this is why emotional mastery is so important. We need to learn how to move through and feel our uncomfortable emotions. We need to learn how to listen to them, how to ask them what they need, and just allow them to be and hold space and not make a big story in our head that something's gone wrong. At the same time, we need to be able to hold space for their uncomfortable emotions. When you start saying no, when you start prioritizing yourself and decide, I'm not going to please. We want to start off incrementally in small steps, but just know that two things are going to happen. You're going to feel uncomfortable and you're going to learn to hold space for your discomfort, and you're going to learn to hold space for their discomfort, for their disappointment, for their not being happy with you. Because if somebody loves you, and let's just say, for example, you're invited to a party, a family member or a friend, but you just don't feel like going for whatever the reason is. It's a long trip. You're tired. You worked all week. When you say no to them, they're going to be disappointed because they love you and they want you there. And you need to then be able to hold your own guilt or shame or embarrassment or grief or whatever comes up for you. The fact that you're saying no and disappointing them, and then also allowing the space for them to have their disappointment. So I want you to just imagine what it would be like to be that sturdy, loving force that can actually tolerate uncomfortable emotions, not only in your body, but also allow them to have theirs without making it mean anything. That oh, they're mad at you and that means that they don't love you. No, they still love you. We still love each other. You still love them. We've just disappointed each other on some level. And we need to be able to hold the emotional space for everyone involved. And that's where we want to get to with this. And a lot of times we're perceiving that, oh, it's black or white, it's them or me. And there's so much space in between. It's not them or me. We want to take everybody's needs into account and make the best decision that we can in the moment, which leads me to step number 3, making empowered decisions from a place of core values and needs. So the third step is making decisions from a place of empowerment. Making choices rooted in your own core values while balancing the needs of everyone involved, including ourselves. Many of us make decisions that benefit others, but leave ourselves feeling empty. Instead, consider your own core values, whether they include health, family, truth, love, integrity, peace. Use them as a guiding compass. Nurses and nurse coaches often pride themselves on caring for others. But what if you use that same compassion to also care for yourself? Ask yourself the questions, what are my needs here? And can they be just as important as everybody else's? What would that look like if I moved forward from that place? That is the first question that you would ask yourself on this journey. Eventually, you want to ask yourself, could my needs be the most important in the room? I want to share, I have that belief that if I'm not prioritizing my needs, who is? I'm a 47-year-old adult. I'm a woman. I'm a single mother. I actually need to be prioritizing myself. And doesn't everybody else around you benefit when you're not harboring resentment and doing things that you actually don't want to do and feeling angry about it? I know everybody in my house benefits when I'm tuned into my needs and acting from a place of self-prioritization. How about you? So ask yourself the question, how would it be to make empowered decisions from a place of core values? Mine are truth, freedom, and love. And ever since I discovered that those are my core values, I can go to them when I'm making big decisions, and they're a set of guiding principles that never steer me wrong. And oftentimes when I'm making decisions from that place, it's not the easy decision to make. A lot of times it's the harder choice. It's being the adult. It's holding space for my own discomfort and theirs. It's risking a conflict. It's risking disappointing someone. And those are not easy decisions to make, but they are the decisions that your core values will guide you to. Step number 4, understanding compromise. Yes, you still need to compromise even when you're kicking this pleaser pattern to the curb and deciding to self-prioritize. It's okay to bend without breaking. So step 4 is understanding the importance of compromise and collaboration. Sometimes you may need to compromise. You may need to put someone else's needs first, and that's okay. Putting yourself first does not mean always getting your way. It's about making decisions that respect both you and others. In nursing, compromise might mean taking on an extra task. So for example, it might mean if your manager comes and asks you to do an extra shift, you may say, okay, but I want to have off this other shift rather than just add extra 12 hours onto your plate. That's a compromise. That's okay. I'm going to help you out, but I'm going to get my needs met as well. And in nurse coaching, this might mean adjusting a schedule to support a client, but with clear boundaries. Compromise is about being flexible without losing yourself. Remember, it's okay to bend. Just make sure you're not breaking. When you're making decisions, you're taking into account your core values, using them as your set of guiding principles, but also looking at what everyone's needs are in the process. Sometimes as mothers, we need to prioritize our kids' needs. They come first. Sometimes we don't. Recognizing when you're pleasing, even with your children. This has been some of my deepest work when we have brought our kids to a point where, let's just use this as an example. They're sitting on the couch and they call you over, Mom, can you come here and grab this thing and throw it away from me? And meanwhile, they just happen to be closer to the garbage than you. what do as a mom? You make a decision in that circumstance. And a lot of times we're thinking as moms, well, I can do it, so I might as well do it. But I don't want to do it, but I'm just doing it anyway because I want to make my kids happy and I just want them to feel like their needs are always met. Well, again, that's not our job, is to please our kids and make them happy. Our job in our children's lives is to grow them up into being very resourceful, resilient, capable adults. And maybe it serves them to actually tell them no in that moment. I'm not going to throw this away. You're actually closer to the garbage and I want you to throw it away. And remember, saying no and not pleasing means being able to hold space for your uncomfortable emotions and theirs, which means that they're going to protest. This is what kids do. Kids do not have a natural ability to handle uncomfortable emotions. And we as parents are modeling what that looks like. So when we can stand firm and sturdy in their tantrums, in their discomfort, and not make it our job to make them happy because that is pleasing, then we are actually doing our jobs as parents. So what this looks like is stating the boundary, letting them know, no, you go throw that away, letting them have their feelings, and even validating their feelings. I understand you're upset about this. Maybe this is the first time you've ever told them no. I always say yes, but I really know that you're capable and I want you to start picking up after yourself. This is actually something that's good for you. And I understand you don't want to do it. And that's okay. You can have your feelings. You still have to do it, right? So holding that boundary and validating, that's what being a sturdy emotional mastery leader looks like when we decide to stop pleasing and stop making it our job to make everybody else happy and decide to prioritize our own needs in that moment. I also want to just share something really interesting. I'm going through this work very personally on a personal level in my own life with my ex. And me and my ex have a great co-parenting relationship for our son. We've been together for 5 years. However, it's not perfect. It's a work in progress. And we couldn't be any more different as far as beliefs and thoughts and just where we stand on like world issues. It's so interesting how opposite we are. So what's happening in both houses is very different, but we are collaborating and coming together. And I realized the other day how I am still operating from a pleaser place with him. I am still so tuned into his uncomfortable emotions. And when I open up conversations with him, how I'm trying to not trigger disappointment or anger or him thinking I'm attacking him on some level, right? Because he's got this high level of defensiveness. And I had some deeper work to do on that recently. And I got to the other side of it. I did all of my emotional processing and I just scheduled a talk with him for this Saturday because I have some things to share with him and what I'm observing in the dynamic between my son and him. And what is my job as my son's mother? It is not to please his father. It is not to avoid conflict with his father. It actually is to advocate for the highest level of health and well-being for my son in an honest way, because I value my thoughts and my opinions here. And if that means that I'm going to trigger something in my ex and that's going to upset him, I'm okay with that. Right now in this moment, I am okay with that. I wasn't even okay with that a couple of days ago. And when I realized that, I was like, wow, there's still more layers here. I'm so proud of myself that I got to this point and I'm going to have this conversation with him. Now, the other piece to this is I trust myself. I trust myself to come into that conversation sturdy and confident and kind, not coming from this place of it's either like, okay, whatever you want, or like, screw you, it's all about me. That's black and white thinking. And our brains love to go to black and white thinking. Our brains have a hard time holding multiple things at the same time. At this point, I really trust myself to have that conversation with him. I'm even looking forward to it. And I'm not worried about how he's going to react or respond, being highly defensive, because I trust myself enough to know that I can handle it, whatever it is. I trust myself to know that I don't have to respond in kind. I don't have to go low when he goes low. I can stay high. I can decide who I'm going to be in that conversation before I get into it and trust myself and know that if I make a mistake, I'm okay with that. I will learn from it. You're either winning or learning when you take on a growth mindset. At the same time, here I am going through my own personal journey in this. I just got a text message from a friend. Now, this is a friend that I've met since I've become a coach. So we are all very in tune to healing and personal development. We have plans in a couple of weeks. We are going away for a weekend. And we had made plans for her to do a photo shoot of me while we were away. Well, in the middle of me making this talk for you, I got this text. Hey, my friend, I wanted to let you know that I made the decision not to take my camera with me during our weekend together. I realized that I was in the people pleaser mode, while what I want for that weekend is to be for my healing journey and connecting with others, not worrying about technicality or about a photo shoot. I hope you understand. I just wrote back, thank you for letting me know. How interesting that I was doing this talk. I felt disappointed when I got that text. I felt a little embarrassed when I got that text. I felt the uncomfortable emotions of someone saying no to me. It was a little bit of a rejection. And then I thought, did I infringe or impose? So I did my own emotional processing work on that. And I realized it is disappointing when someone says no. So here's what I want to share. When you decide to start saying no to people and you start prioritizing yourself, one of two things is going to happen. You're going to see both of these things happen. And the first one is people are going to be disappointed with your no. They are used to a certain dynamic. They're used to you saying yes. And when you say no, for whatever their reasons are, whether they love you and they're just honestly disappointed that you're not going to be with them, or they're just so used to you always saying yes that they're just kind of puzzled by this new version of you, they're going to have uncomfortable emotions and they're going to be disappointed. And you're going to learn to hold space for that. The other outcome, which I've found to happen more times than not, is they're not thinking about you the way you think. They're actually relieved. And I can't tell you how many times this has panned out in this way where you realize, oh my gosh, they're fine. They're actually okay. It wasn't that big a deal. I was actually making the big deal of it. And this comes up a lot when we're telling ourselves a story that I need to. Breathe into your body. Whenever you catch yourself telling yourself a story that you have to or you need to, you don't. You're choosing to in that moment. And do you choose to? And a lot of times you're thinking that they're so hung up on you when they're not. And you're going to get that result more than the other result. But how interesting that my friend had said yes to something and then she decided to say no. And I was really disappointed. That was 3 days ago. I received that text. And just today, I started to feel really clean and clear and ready to talk to her again. Even though she's saying no to me and she's prioritizing herself in that moment, I'm allowed to have my feelings about it. I'm allowed to be disappointed and hurt. And I can know that she still loves me and I still love her. You can still love them through your no. You can still love them and love yourself too. So the last step, step 5, is boundaries and mindset reframing. So the final step is all about boundaries and reframing how we think about them. Boundaries are the foundation of self-respect. A boundary is not a wall. When we cut people off, or those people that cut people off, that's not a boundary. That is a wall that comes from a place of self-protection and insecurity and woundedness. That's not a boundary. A boundary is a bridge to a better relationship. When I show up more authentically, I don't harbor resentment for saying a yes when I want to say no, or a no when I want to say yes, or whatever it is. I'm showing up more authentic in that relationship, and that does build a bridge. And if it puts a wedge, I call this loving distance. When we're becoming more authentic and we're starting to say no, and maybe we're putting some distance between us and another person, I call it loving distance because it's self-loving distance. And we're no longer pleasing and pretending in that relationship. We're actually healthier with the distance, and we're okay with that. The practical tip for setting boundaries is to keep your no simple and clear instead of lengthy explanations. Use phrases like, I'd love to help, but I can't. Remember, no is a complete sentence. I'm not raising a people pleaser. So I have a 9-year-old and he has the right to make certain decisions. One of them is if he wants to attend a friend's birthday party or not. We got an invitation. He's gone to this birthday party 3 years in a row. I asked him, he said no, he didn't feel like going. And that was his reason. I just don't want to go. I'm not like that good of friends with him and I don't feel like going. So I gave him permission to make that decision. And what I wrote to her was, hey, happy birthday to Frank. Thank you for the invite. We cannot make it. That's it. I said no. I was polite. I was kind. I gave a truthful reason. I didn't lie. I didn't make up an excuse. I didn't say why we couldn't go. I said, we cannot make it. And that is the truth. Doesn't matter why, that we can't make it because we don't want to make it, or we can't make it because we have another engagement scheduled. When we say no, we're allowed to say no. And then she wrote back, frowny face, thanks for the reply. Sorry he can't make it. And I wrote, yes, me too. Hope Frank has a great birthday. We can say no and be kind. We can say no and be sturdy in our no. We can say no, frowny face, and be okay with the disappointment. We can do this. Putting yourself first is an art. It's a journey and it takes practice and patience and a lot of self-love. Remember, this isn't about rejecting the part of you that wants to please others. This is about using that part as a doorway to your personal freedom and your self-prioritization. It's about embracing that part of you while still making space for your own needs. Each of these 5 steps, awareness, emotional mastery, empowered decision-making, compromise, and boundaries, takes you from resentment to empowerment. The next time you feel the need to please, I encourage you to just take a deep breath into your body, give yourself some space, and ask yourself, what do I really want to do here? Because the most important relationship that you have in your life is the one that you have with yourself. Till death do you part. By prioritizing the relationship that you have with yourself, you're not only uplifting yourself, but you're also empowering those around you to do the same. I just want to share that because my friend sent me that text where she had said yes and then said no and admitted to the people pleasing, as hurt and disappointed as I was, I feel very like, wow, that was powerful. And now I have permission to also not please in the relationship. And it feels really good. I almost feel like our relationship is at like this next level of truth. And it feels loving. It feels solid. It feels sturdy. It feels really authentic. So just know that when you start doing this, some people are going to have big feelings about it. And some people are going to be really empowered and inspired by it. And think of what you're empowered and inspired by. Do they have confidence? Do they say no when they want? Do they speak their mind? When I was doing my own set of core values, I realized the people that I aspired to be like, that I was so inspired by, were people that just could speak their mind. That really inspired me. How about you? And just checking to see if there's any questions. I've been working on just saying no without reasons. Yeah. Keep it short, keep it simple. No over-explaining. Less is more. That is a rule of thumb with communication. We tend to over-explain when we feel insecure. Being a sturdy leader means just keeping it simple, keeping it real, keeping it true, not lying. It's okay. And giving yourself the permission. All right. Well, that's it. Have an amazing day. Thanks for hanging out with me. Bye.